two matches in years, watched by over 12,000 fans, Linfield and Glentoran served up a festive 6-goal thriller. Linfield were 2-0 up after 25 minutes. Chris Morgan scored the first, and from a Justin McBride corner with the Glentoran defence non-existent, Russell Kelly headed in the second. But Glentoran hit back within a minute. From Tim McCann's corner, Darren Armour volleyed past the Blues keeper Robert Robinson. That made it 2-1. It was nearly 2-2 before half-time. Andrew Hunter came inches from scoring an own goal. He was saved by the upright. 10 minutes into the second half, the Glens did get back on level terms. Michael Halliday turned in Colin Nixon's cross. That sent the huge Glentoran support into overdrive, and just a minute later there was even more to celebrate. Glentoran's new signing, Mark Wright from Preston, outpaced Noel Bailey to slide the ball into the net and put Glentoran 3-2 in front. The celebrations didn't last long though, as Linfield squared the game again. Glen's keeper Alan Goff dropped the ball, not a sensible thing to do with Glenn Ferguson beside you. His goal made it 3-3, a point shared, and everyone went home happy. Stephen Watson.
With a 2-1 win over Cliftonville, Linfield striker Chris Morgan in exceptional scoring form, his first good, his second truly a blinder, which the travelling Blues fans lapped up.
We've set ourselves a target of trying to put a run together of maybe 8 or 9 consecutive wins. If we can't do that, then we're probably not going to be up there challenging at the end of the season.
Linfield's defence of the title is being written off. However, in recent weeks they've played leaders Glentoran, second place Portadown and now third place Coleraine, winning twice and drawing once. But there's no doubt that yesterday's game with Coleraine was their most impressive performance to date, scoring 7 goals in total to leapfrog the Bandsiders into third place. Darren Murphy, Russell Kelly, Glenn Ferguson and Chris Morgan gave the Blues a 4-0 lead, before Sean Armstrong hit back at the second attempt with the visitors' solitary response, driving the ball through the keeper for their only goal. Substitute Justin McBride was the only man to score twice, making an instant impression as soon as he took the field, adjudged onside before finishing with style. And a minute later the same player found time and space for a one-on-one with keeper Ian Martin, McBride displaying both coolness and composure for his side 6th. Andy Hunter made it a magnificent 7, and while Colerane's title challenge falters, Linfield's just goes from strength to strength, with David Jeffrey's side now up to 3rd in the table.
Final touch. A good start, but the Blues had to wait until 53 minutes for the second. Johnny Law handled in the box, no mistake Ferguson. It was all too easy for the Blues, their third coming after good work by the Port Stewart keeper John Dillon, but Morgan poaching his 8th goal in 6 games.
Glentoran and Portadown immediately after Christmas, and they've won every game since. However, they had to come from behind against the revitalised Crusaders side after Colin McGill gave them the lead. With 3 wins in the trot, this was the crew's biggest test to date, but they let their opponents back into the game when Chris Morgan was awarded a penalty, and Glenn Ferguson beat Paul Key from the spot. In fact, it was Morgan who was to prove the difference between the sides, for it was he that set the champions on their way to another victory, converting Darren Murphy's cross just before half-time, before a 10th goal in 9 games completed the scoring. Crusaders, transformed in recent weeks, will be disappointed with the result, but Linfield aren't going to give up their title without a fight. Winning champions Linfield would have been expected to sweep aside any Glenavon resistance and notch up another home victory. However, things didn't go to plan, for the best of the precious few scoring chances fell to Glenavon. Keeper Robert Robinson denying Conor Faulkner not once but twice to keep the Blues in the game. David Jeffrey's side were subdued almost throughout, with no real urgency in their game until the final few minutes as they pressed for the winner. Chances that were so few and far between in the opening 90 minutes came thick and fast in injury time, but the game ended scoreless and Glenavon were satisfied that their tactics had secured a point away from home.
We had a good game plan. It was important that Linfield didn't score early. We obviously...
Linfield made their intentions clear from the start, Darren Murphy being denied by Stuart Addis, and then Glenn Ferguson heading narrowly over in the opening 7 minutes. But Ferguson made amends 3 minutes later with this superb strike which gave the Ballymena keeper no chance. And the former Northern Ireland international got number 2 in the 19th minute when he rose to head home Pat McShane's cross. McShane was also involved in the build-up to goal number 3, although Addis will have been unhappy at letting in Russell Kelly's shot, which he found too hot to handle. Chris Morgan then put the game beyond doubt in the 32nd minute when he headed in a Tony Gorman corner to make it 4-0. The Blues could have added to their tally after the break, although Ballymena didn't shut up shop and almost got one back through Ricky Culbertson near the end. But Blues boss David Jeffrey was a happy man.
First half, I thought in particular, we were very sharp. Passing was superb. And as I say, I don't often like to get bombastic about my own team. We like to be pretty modest and pretty humble, but I've got to say that we give Ballymena an absolute lesson first half. I didn't think we were as fluent second half, but we still created, a number of chances, and really we were wasteful second half. But at the end of the day, John, you ask your players to come out and keep a clean sheet. You ask them to put the ball in the back of the net. They've done that, and I thought they were thoroughly professional, and we were delighted to be in another final.
And that final between Linfield and Glentoran will be played.
A bumper crowd turned up at Taylor's Avenue to see if Carrick could cause another cup upset against Linfield like the final in 1976. It didn't look likely after 4 minutes, Chris Morgan just failing to latch onto a Russell Kelly cross. The Blues took the lead after 15 minutes. Tony Gorman released Chris Morgan. The striker returned a favour for Gorman to head home from close range. It was 2-0 in the 33rd minute. Kelly found Gareth Skates, who hammered home past a stranded Liam Hartley. Any chance of an upset disappeared 7 minutes before half-time. Stephen Collier did the donkey work for Kelly to slot home, 3-0 Linfield. That man Kelly made it 4-0 2 minutes later. Glenn Ferguson's pass found the midfielder, who finished calmly past Hartley. Kelly second of the game and Linfield well on their way to the quarter-finals.
They were a team on a mission.
An extra motivational factor for us was Mr. David Tibbs, our beloved kit man who isn't too well at the moment, and if anything, that performance was dedicated to him today.
Enter Chris Morgan. His turn and shot made it 1-1. And near the end, Morgan was at the far post to stab in the winner, his 20th of the season.